Bonjour, bonjour. Sunday, June 18th in Paris. It is a warm day, warm and muggy day, as they have all been these days. And there is a potential for a thunderstorm. Hopefully, that won't happen during the live. It's gone back and forth on the timing, but last night there wasn't supposed to be one at all, and there was one in the late afternoon and then in the middle of the night. So we shall see. Give everybody a minute here to get in. And if you're watching this on the replay, make sure to like it or leave a comment, say hi. Hi, Jean. Ugh, 90 degrees, and I bet it's sticky. A sticky 90 degrees. Sometimes the storms are good. Sometimes it breaks that up. Lightning and thunder cut through all of that. So I'm here at the edge of the Tuileries. Right behind me is the Louvre. This part of the Louvre is the École de Louvre. Look at how it is beautiful. The sky is beautiful today. They just redid this whole area. They just cleaned up the whole facade here of the the Pavillon de Flore. I was at the Cafe de Flore this morning. And I'm starting here because today we're going to talk about an event that started on June 20th, 1791. And it started here at the Tuileries. And we're going to go, I'm going to take you to a couple of the spots and then just tell you about what happened that week in June of 1791. But it started here in the Tuileries because this is where it was the Palais de Tuileries. And the last few lives we've done, it's all been something to do with the Tuileries. And maybe next week I'll move somewhere else. But there's still a lot. And then there's a day in August that we'll probably do it again. Hi, Sharon. So good to see you. A day in August, we might have to come back here again. So anyway, we are starting here because the Palais des Tuileries was here. And on October 6, 1789, the last monarchy, I can't talk today. The last royal family, official royal family, is the rest of them after these guys. Some people say that they weren't actually royal or kings and queens because they abolished the monarchy after these guys, was Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. And they brought them here after they took them away from Versailles. They had that big party on October 5th, and the ladies came out there and with their pitchforks demanding food and wanting the head of Marie Antoinette. And they brought him back here to Paris. They put him up here in the Tuileries, and they were here at the Tuileries for 3 years. So for 3 years they were here, and it really wasn't like being in prison because they were here in the Tuileries, which was a massive palace. Right, I'm literally standing on what would be the wall, because here is the Pavillon de Flore up here. And so here at the end of the Louvre, this is technically, as you have learned the last few weeks, and I'm sure you already knew, when people say that the Tuileries, the Palais de Tuileries is gone, that's not true, because this pavilion and this pavilion on the other side, the Pavillon de Marsan, are technically the Tuileries. These were not built as the Louvre, they were built as the Tuileries. Then they were incorporated into what we know of the Louvre today, the Palais de Louvre. The building itself is the Palais de Louvre. You still call it that because the Musée des Arts Décoratifs, that is straight over there on the other side, straight through these trees, is but you say it's in the Palais du Louvre. Some people say just the Louvre, and it's not, because the Louvre, you say, as a museum. So that is how that works. Hi, Angela. So they were here for 3 years until this night on June 21st, 1791, when they had for a while been here. They were under watch, under a watchful eye at all times, including Angela's boyfriend, Lafayette. was keeping an eye on him because he was in charge of the National Guard. But they had thought, we got to get out of here. And they're trying to drum up some support from somebody around Europe. Her brother over in Austria, who was a Holy Empire, they thought that maybe they would help them get out of here. So for a while, Louis XVI was trying to drum up a plan to actually escape. But it took until a gentleman named Axel de Fersen, in French you call him de Fersen. He's from Swedish. He was a Swedish minister, and he was Axel von Fersen. But since we're in France, we'll call him de Fersen. And you might know him if you know some Marie Antoinette history because he was her lover. A long time historians, it comes out around the world every year or two with new evidence found that they were lovers. Well, they have all these secret letters, and then they keep deciphering some of these letters. And yes, I believe that they were lovers because they first met on January 30th, 1774, at the Paris ball at the Opera House. That is when they first met. He ended up eventually going over to America to help out over there with the American Revolutionary War, and then he ended up coming back. And when they finally saw each other again, it was just kismet, and they remembered each other. And he was always hanging around. If you've seen the Sophia Coppola Marie Antoinette, the guy, the really sexy guy from 50 Shades, he's the one that plays him. So I'm just saying. Anyway, so he actually got involved with Louis XVI to actually help with this plot for them to escape. Before that, why does this thing keep doing this? They, why? Let's see. Hopefully, there we go. At that time, Louis the 16th thought he said, I want to go for Easter this year. On April 17th, 1791, he said, I want to go spend my Easter at Saint-Cloud, which is the palace that was outside of Paris, one that Marie Antoinette really loved. And he wanted to go out there, but they were worried that they thought, well, this might be the perfect chance for him to escape. And so they weren't going to let him go unless he was going to go under, a watchful eye. So they decided to let him go, but they didn't get very far. They left here at the Tuileries, and they just got over here to the Pont au Carousel, which is just through those trees over there. And while they were there, a bunch of protesters were there, and the guards actually ended up killing a bunch of them, like over 75 people. So Louis thought, well, maybe we shouldn't do this. And he decided to stay in Paris, and they went to Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois, which is where we're going to walk by today. But he ended up staying here in Paris at the time. But in March of 1791, with the help of Axel, he ended up ordering a chariot that they could take outside of Paris that would be big enough to fit everybody that needed to go, which meant the whole royal family, but also was maybe a little stripped down as far as, not to catch attention and know that the royal family was there. It was ordered in March of 1791 by Jean-Louis, the coachmaker, who was just over on the Quai Malaquais, which is where we're going to end up. And it was green with yellow wheels, and it was going to be pulled by 6 horses. So they ended up having it made, and they didn't pick it up till the beginning of June. So here, as we are where we would be in the Tuileries, we're walking right now, right through the Grand Salon. There is a really great exhibition going on right now at the Archives, the Archives, which is just in the Marais, really close to the Carnavalet. And it's all about the time, Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI's time at the Tuileries. It was really interesting, and I got, of course, a cool book about it there. And if you're in Paris this summer, definitely go and check it out. This is a good part. I don't know what this thing is. This is a good part because this is actually a grass that you could go on, which doesn't happen very often. This is usually where the dogs always are running. So if you're going to sit there, maybe really make sure where you sit. Maybe scan it a little first before you sit down, since the dogs run around. And that's a very good guy. This thing is just keep having these jerky movements. Here you have the maillot, homage to Cézanne. This thing is just doing weird things. Here's the homage to Cézanne. I gave a tour to a gal yesterday. Really great gal. She goes by the name Cezi, but her name is Cézanne. Her parents named her after Cezanne. How cool is that? Okay, come on now. It's always something. So anyway, on June 20th, at 1791, they decided to escape. So this whole plan was put in place. And at 10:30 that night, Axel came over here to the Tuileries and took the two children, the royal children, took them here out of the Tuileries and took them over through. We're going to walk over to where they met their first coach, right on the other side here of the Louvre. You can see it's a busy day. This breeze, though, is kind of a life-saving because it's definitely helping. I just got done this week with another tour of a bunch of ladies. I had five wonderful, wonderful ladies that I hope Brandy's watching and Heidi today, but had met some wonderful ladies that I consider friends, and hopefully they will come back soon to visit. I already missed them. Here's the Pavillon Marsan. Pavillon Marsan is where Madame Elisabeth was living. This thing is just not. Well, this thing doesn't want to. So at 10:30 p.m., Axel takes the children out of here. At 11:30 p.m., Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI say their goodbyes, say they're going to bed, checking in for the night, not to arouse any suspicion, and everything was fine. So at 12:10 on the morning of the 21st, they sneak out separately because they are in two different spots, of course, of the palace. So they sneak out separately, and Louis XVI goes to where he is supposed to meet Axel and the children and the carriage to take them to their fancy custom carriage that they were going to go to. And he got there just a little after that, in about 10 minutes. But Marie Antoinette got lost in the streets, and she did not arrive over there until 1:50 in the morning. So it took her over an hour and 45 minutes to get to the meeting spot. And at one point, Axel was quite worried that maybe they weren't going to be coming. And what was he going to do? Maybe something happened. Maybe they got found out, and he was going to have to figure out what to do with the children on his own. But luckily, they came in time. But now they're already about 2 hours running behind. So they get down, they leave there, and I'll take you to where they met their other carriage because they were so close to the Louvre. They were worried that they had to leave in a very nondescript, plain carriage car, so that nobody would find out. And so then they parked the other car over on the quay, and that's where they met up together. But again, they were already 2 hours behind, and everything on the whole entire route depended on everything being on time. The plan was for them to get to the city of Montmédy that's up in the very northeastern side of France, because it was they were supportive of the monarchy, and so he thought they could get there, then they could arouse the support of other European rulers that would then maybe help them get back into power. So this is the Rue de l'Echelle. This is the street up here on the corner. Is where they were to meet. And so it wasn't a very, I mean, that took us what, 5 minutes? It took Marie Antoinette an hour and 45 minutes. Obviously, the streets looked a little bit different back then. You didn't have pavement. You were going in between a whole lot of houses. The streets weren't laid out in this somewhat of a Parisian grid, and she got lost. It was just right here. So we're very close. That's right through there. That is the Palais de Louvre. It's covered up right now. That's very close to the entrance of the Musée des Arts Décoratifs. The entrance to the shop is right there. You can't enter through that way right now. You have to go out through the garden, but it is just right there. So that's how close we are to the Tuileries and the Louvre. And yet it took her quite some time to get here. We'll go through the restaurant here. It is a perfect day to sit outside and have a Saint Germain spritz, which I might just need to do after this is done. But it's fun to be back with you guys. I haven't been able to do it for 2 weeks because I was with clients, but the next couple weeks look pretty good as of right now to be able to bring you some more live walks. We'll go walk through here and then we'll head down over to outside of Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois, which isn't very far from here. Oh, we got some dancing up here. Let's go check that out. My favorite place. I thought if we did get stuck with a thunderstorm, if it was rain, I'd be okay with an umbrella. If it was a thunder and lightning storm, I don't know how excited I would be to be holding this electronic lightning rod and umbrella in my hand. So I thought, well, I'll just go to New Moore. I'll have the guys get me a spot and we would just chat there and I'd tell you the whole story. There's a Comédie Française. It is really, really busy in the city, you guys. If you are coming here in the next week or two, really plan ahead if it comes to getting to the airport. The air show is this week. It's more of a industry-like air show, not the kind of air shows you think of in the U.S., but it's going to wreak havoc on traffic, and it's going to take a really long time to get to and from if you happen to be coming. There's a little dancers here. But here's the DJ. How cute is he? I love that they tie their bags up. People leave their bags while they're dancing, and they tie them all together so that people don't steal them. Oh, there's Terry and Bruno. Look at all those open seats. So many open seats here. It's not something you normally find. So after they left, when they're out on the street, they meet over at the Quai de Louvre, the other carriage. And the other carriage is going to take them east from Paris and then up towards the north to where they are going to meet. Now, when they picked the bodyguards and men that were going to be with them, they picked more the people they picked were more for loyalty than they were for actually knowing what they were doing. When they got to the carriage that night, the royal governess argued and said her job was to stay with the children until her death. That was her job. And so one of the dukes that was supposed to go with him, that was actually a very smart tactician that really knew the route, knew where they were supposed to go and what they were supposed to do, he basically was pulled off the carriage so the governess could go, which was a huge, huge mistake. So if they had chosen people a little better to be on there, historians say it would have had a whole different impact. And they would have escaped, and then a whole lot of other things wouldn't have happened. So it is kind of a, especially when you can look back in history and the what ifs is always very interesting. It's good to have loyal people, but maybe find some loyal people that are also really smart. This is the Rue Saint-Honoré, and that's part of the Ministry of Culture, just part of it. There's quite a few buildings that are all part of the Ministry of Culture. I was just avoiding the other part. I think this is trying to find faces. I think that's why I finished the jerky. So when they got at 7 a.m. the next morning, they found that the king was not there. The king was missing, and Lafayette was told. And within an hour, most of Paris was aware that he had escaped and he had gone. And then they realized everybody else was gone too. So the whole family at this point was gone. And an arrest warrant was put out for them. At 11 a.m., they pulled into the town of Montmirail. They were 3 hours late. And what they had done is Chez Claude. But I've never been there. I've always needed to go because it's my name. And right up that little street there where that yellow building is, that's where my Louboutin store is. The very first, the original. The only one you should buy your shoes at, because that's where he came up with the red painted sole. I digress. But they arrived 3 hours late. And when they arrived 3 hours late, they were supposed to have along the way other soldiers that were gonna meet them along the way, as well as horses, because they had to just keep going. They couldn't constantly be stopping to feed these horses and get them water. So they literally were running these poor horses into the ground. And so at 3 p.m. they got there, or 11 a.m. I should say. And at 4 p.m. that day, they kept on going. And at that point, the horses did say no more. They couldn't do any more. They collapsed. They then had to sit there and wait a while. Because again, remember, this is 1791. You couldn't just text someone and say you ran out of gas, aka horses. So they just had to wait till they could finally find their men to catch up, to be there to change out the horses. We have the Church of the Louvre and the Gaspard de Coligny, which we've shared before. They've redone, look at all these beautiful dahlias in there. They've been working on these gardens on both sides here the last year. Now you have all those gorgeous dahlias in there. I was going to wear my super cute new tennis shoes that I got as a little gift from my ladies this last week. They have Marie Antoinette on them, but it didn't match my shirt. And I didn't have enough time to make that big of a change. But I show you. If you saw my Instagram stories, I posted a little video of them coming out of the box. So there's Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois. That same day, and just before 8 p.m., at 7:55 p.m., they got to the town of Saint-Manault, and a gentleman was there working. Earlier on the route, a postmaster spotted them and thought, hey, that guy looks familiar. But he just thought it was nothing of it, kept on going. But then when they got to this other town at 8 o'clock, Jean-Baptiste Drouet recognized the king because of the coin in his pocket. He had, back then, the kings put their face on every piece of money there was, just like they still do in England. And what's really cool, go to that building, it's straight ahead, over on the other side of the water, with the French flag in it. See that bus? Go look at the top of the bus. That is the mint. That is the Monet. And it is a really, really cool place to visit. Especially, that's a great place if you have kids, or if you're just the really curious type that wants to know more about it. It's really cool, and it has a bunch of the history of how the money is made. It has a bunch of the different dyes that they use to die cut each of the coins. It's really, really cool. I haven't been by for a while, but I have an exhibit there. It's about money and art, gold and everything. So I want to go check that out. And it's like 3-minute walk from my apartment, 3-minute slow walk. So I definitely need to go check it out. There's Saint-Sulpice. I actually technically live in the district that's named after the mint. So here we have Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois. This is where they came that Easter, the last Easter, they got to be out on their own. And you have the bell tower here. It's a really beautiful church inside. It is also the church that they would use, the royal family would use when they were living in the Louvre. There's the bell tower here. There's the rat ball sculpture here on the back that has the 3 rats scurrying around a ball. Look at these poor roses. I'm not doing so good. But it's a gorgeous church. This is where now, the first Friday of every month, they have the Crown of Thorns. And then the week, so it's only going to be one more Easter of that, just next year. Next year, the Crown of Thorns will be in here again for Good Friday and every Friday during Lent. And then in 2025, it'll be back at Notre Dame. I want to take a peek in there real quick. Hang on. Well, at least just look in the door. But Notre Dame is slated to be open December 8th, 2024. So it looks like they are getting ready. But I also love that they have the candle holders here on either side are also from Notre Dame. And then Our Lady, let's see if you can see her from here. Oh my gosh, it's so cool in here. Do you see Our Lady? So up there, just to the right of the altar is the Our Lady of the Pillar that was in Notre Dame, right there in the center, just off the edge of the center transept, and all the debris, the burnt debris, fell around her. She didn't even have a scratch on her. So they made their way over here, down around here to the corner of what is right by the Quai du Louvre, and this is where they ended up getting their carriage that took them out of Paris. Oh, look at that little guy. He's just walking himself. Yeah, Samaritan there on the left, and on the right, the Cheval Blanc. If you want to have a really, really amazing dinner experience, come here to that restaurant. This is the Two Paris that's there on the right. See that upper balcony up there? That's where it is on the front side of the building. It has an amazing view over towards the left bank. Most of the rooftop views you have are more over into deeper into the right near the Gallery Lafayette, um, and all the ones over there. But this is a great one because you get to see Notre Dame. There's a new place. I think it's Bonnie that's down to the end of Ile Saint Louis. That's kind of the new trendy place to be right now. But this dinner, I went there a few weeks ago. It's on the expensive side, but it is really great, and the view is a 100% worth it. It's gorgeous. So they just picked up the carriage right here and made it on their way. 10:50 p.m. on that 21st of June. They were stopped. They made it to the town of Varennes. This whole episode is called The Flight to Varennes. If you look it up in history, that's what it is called. And that is where they were stopped and arrested. So they didn't make it far. It was not even 24 hours after they left. So they arrested them. They kept them there in the town. Hey, what's happening here? I don't know what's going on over here. Oh, maybe it's for Wednesday is longest day of the year, which is also known as Fête de la Musique. And look at those big light towers and speaker stands here on the pole. Look, it's a little bit too set up for this to be Wednesday. Maybe it's something happening tonight. They've been doing some filming down and around here, but that's a lot. That's a lot of lights for filming. Oh, it goes all the way across. Huh. We'll explore it on the way. I was going to go back, double back, and go to Pont des Arts, but it's under construction right now. They're actually almost done with half of it, and they'll close off the other half, and we could walk on the new half. How exciting will that be? So it's a little on the narrow side. Yeah, we got something. Hopefully, we got to cross on the other side. Oh, I wonder if these are actually even. Hopefully, the street's closed. Huh. I'll see what I can find out about it. If it's something exciting and it's not too late, I'll try to come back. Goodness. Holy moly. Hold on. I sure wouldn't be very happy to live right here today. Wait, these are some pretty major light trees. My old event days giving me some PTSD here. This is I'm trying to get away from the speakers and the sirens. You never know what you're going to find any given day in Paris. That's for sure. We'll go over here and see what we can Interesting. Yeah, look at poor Henri. Maybe there's a special ceremony for Henri Cat up there. Probably not. So when were captured, they stayed there the night, and then they started to move them. The next day, they moved them. They reached the town of Mia, which is, as you know, if you are a cheese lover, Brie de Mia is the town where that is from. So they stayed there for a night. On June 22nd, 1791, they got him over to Châlons-en-Champagne, the town, the small town. Lovely little view. And then they got to Epernay, so the town of Epernay, where so many wonderful champagne is made. And then by the 25th, that morning at 7 a.m., they left for Paris. And they were on their way to Paris, and they had to figure out how to bring them in because now everybody had known they escaped. And everybody was pretty ticked off at them because for a long time, he was trying to say, oh, no, I will agree with whatever the assembly wants me to do, and I will concede to whatever you want. But now that they escaped, basically, you just showed how guilty you were because you escaped and that you had no intention of falling in line that you had said you were going to. So they ended up, nobody trusted them. The government didn't trust them. The people didn't trust them. And so they tried to figure out how to bring them back into Paris. And the streets were covered with people. They were trying to think of what route they would be coming in. And people would just guess and say, we're just going to go to this way. What they decided to do is they brought them down the Rue de la Chapelle and down the wider boulevards at the time and brought them into the city. And then they got them over to the Champs-Élysées. So they could go straight down the Champs-Élysées to, oh, we got something else we're going to see in a minute, and to get to the Pont de la Concorde, Place de la Concorde, and to back to the Tuileries. Looks like the boys are back. Oh, are they giving out free rides? You see we'll just, hold here for a moment. Bringing back some people they gave a little ride to. It's a fireman boat. Just have to share. I'll have to find out what's going up there on there. I don't know. So they brought them back, and so they were lining the streets. And when they lined the streets, Lafayette put out an order and said, if you applaud for the king and queen, you will be beaten. But if you screamed and yelled insults, you would be hung. So they were trying to have this taken care of in a way where it would still be somewhat respectful. But of course, since everybody hated Marie Antoinette, they were screaming and yelling at her as she was coming down in her carriage. They made it back to the Tuileries at 10 p.m. that night on the 25th of June. They stayed there. Now at this time, they're pretty much under lock and key. Everybody is watching them, afraid that they are going to escape or try to do something. Moulin Rouge. Afraid they would try to escape again. So every movement was watched. They could not do anything alone anymore. And they stayed there for a little over another year. And on August 10th, 1792, was a storming of the Tuileries. And when that happened, they had to escape. And we'll talk about that one some that day with sometime in August. For that, I'll take you to go to the National Assembly and we'll visit all those places. So my friend Mikel, that's always here on the bridge every day taking pictures, he just told me that see those two houseboats down there? The two on the outside. This one, the white one, and the black one. Just each of those, each recently sold for $1.5 million. And I don't believe that includes the actual mooring and rent you have to pay there for your spot. But I mean, come on, could that would not be one of the better spots? Not to mention that you're right here, center of the city, under the beautiful Pont des Arts. You're right across from the Louvre, and you're right by the firemen. I mean, sign me up. I don't know if I would want to be there though in the winter, and also when the Seine floods, and you pretty much have to leave because your boat's at the same height as the wall. I'm not so sure about that part, but sitting out there like on a night like this, so you can have your apero up on top of the boat. How great is that? So here's the Pont des Arts. Let me show you how the work is coming along. It's supposed to be done by the beginning of September, and I think they're doing pretty good. Except for a while there, I never saw them doing any work. But I also hadn't been by here in well over a week until the other day. And check this out. On the other side, you can see all the way down there, hopefully. So these are actually, they cut these in half. So there was 3 sections. So there was a small section on the left and over here on the right, kind of next to what I call the runway. That little runway there is holding down because the boards are just popping up. So they cut that. I was wondering how they were going to do that, if they were going to replace everything. But they cut them. You can see fresh cut there. And then they are treating all of that iron. They're painting it. When they're painting it, it's really smelly when you walk through here. But they're treating all of it. And you can see all of the gunk underneath there and the little nets. And then they're laying all these new sections down. And the sections have, you can see it right here, they kind of have that tread on it. So hopefully, because in the winter when it gets frosty, because it's a bridge and so it gets cold underneath, it gets pretty slippery. But they're doing pretty good. I don't. There's that big side there that's still open on the left. But when they're working on this, all of the men are strapped in and strapped to the bridge itself because that net's down there catching debris. I don't know how good it would be about catching a person. And I don't know, there's no way I'd want to go in that water in the Seine. I don't know how they think in a year from now, a year and 1 month, people are going to be swimming in there for the Olympics, but I definitely would not want to fall in there. But they're doing pretty good. So pretty soon, I bet in the next couple weeks, they'll have this side done. They took all the glass out because of the pieces obviously go out and underneath. And then they'll put all the glass back in. It looks like some of them have the glass. And then they'll go back and close off and we'll go to the other side. So that's kind of exciting. It's going to be cool when it's all done. So we'll head over here. I'm going to cross the street though, because get away from all the people. And of course, you know this, my lovely Institute de France, the College of Four Nations, as it was called, because it was built from the will of Cardinal Mazarin. Left his money so that they could build a college here, and it was a college of the Four Nations. And that Four Nations, it was only for 22 students, so they had pretty great digs for 22 students. Over there on the left is the Bibliothèque Mazarin that has the collection of some of the oldest books in France. It's a really beautiful library. I have a special card in there so I could go use it. I don't know if it has any air conditioning. I thought maybe one afternoon later this week I'd go in there, but I don't know if it has any air conditioning. If it does, I'll go hang out there all the time this summer. But it's a gorgeous, gorgeous library. So we'll walk down here. We are now on the Quai Malaquais, which this whole part at one point belonged to Margaret de Valois, first wife of Henry IV. And Malaquais basically means the bad K. And some people would say it's because of her, but actually it means because this was when it was down here, the one point the Seine just was like any beach. Oh, look what we just found. Was just like any beach. Look at that. So another one should be right over there, but I think it's missing because I've looked before. Um, it was, you just had the sand sloped into the water. So they eventually built all the walls up. But they said this was just a really hard place to dock boats. Was this little spot. So that's why it's called Malaquais. But it's also one of the shortest. It just goes from right there in the center of the Institut de France over to right over the corner of Rue Bonaparte. Or, sorry, it's a Rue Saint-Père. So it's not even very long. But right over here, just right past where that white building is, it's right past the École des Beaux-Arts. That is where the carriage maker was. So he was just right over there. So, right here. And that's the École des Beaux-Arts. There's a new exhibit over there I got to go check out. The Café des Beaux-Arts, which is a cafe that's been there for a very long time. It's a great one, and that's Rue Bonaparte. The Rue Bonaparte has all of the fantastic shopping. It goes all the way up. You go right by City Pharma, which I went there today. Again, had another, go in there asking for one thing. They didn't have my serum I usually use, but the lady let me know that I had sensitive skin and made me look in the mirror and then told me to buy something else. So I swear to God, every time I go in there, I leave feeling crappy about myself. And it cost me money. So, but every time they've done that, they give me something, tell me to use something, and it actually is really good. So I'll just embrace that side of it. But I am going to leave it there for you guys today. So I turn around and say hi. Hi, all. Look right in front of the garbage can. So, hi, all. It is another lovely day here. Here, wait, I'll show you this over here. Wait, see the Louvre. It's a lovely, warm day here. So I am going to jump off and maybe I'll stop at one of my places I like and have a Saint-Germain spritz. Maybe I'll do that. So anyway, thank you guys so much. Hi, Angela. See ya. Hi, Leslie. Thanks for joining me. And anybody else, go ahead and pop in and say hi. I'm sure my mother's watching. And happy Father's Day out there to anybody. If Big Ron is watching, happy Father's Day. I always love this holiday because I had to do nothing for it except for my grandpa was alive. But other than that, I don't recognize this holiday as far as my own father. Anyway, but I had my grandpa, and he was the greatest grandpa, father figure in the world, and I miss him forever, and miss my grandma. But I have them here with me every single day. And just today, as I was walking, a seagull was flying over me, and he squawked, and I was like, "Hey, Pops!" Every time I see a seagull, especially if they yell at me. I'm like, "Yes, Pops, I know." It's usually always in a moment where I'm thinking about something or upset about something, and then a seagull pops up and squawks, and then I always say, "Hi, Pops. I know, I know." And then I kind of move past it. So anyway, guys, thank you so, so much. I wasn't able to do my newsletter, but I did send out one just for you guys the other day. Had literally zero time. I worked 107 hours in 7 days, dealt with a very, very, very difficult person during that. But I had 5 amazing and wonderful ladies. And so if any of you girls are watching, hi, I miss you. But this week, I'll have a newsletter. This week is easier, much better. And I look forward to seeing one of you that watches all the time tomorrow. Take you to the Louvre. But thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a wonderful Sunday and a happy Father's Day. You're gonna go have some, hamburgers or hot dogs and all that good stuff. And happy birthday to you, Ron, if you're watching. And I will see you guys all later this week. Bye, guys.